Oh, are you
I had to
sick?
let that out.
Are you okay? What's going on, Erik? What's wrong? Are you like sick of this year? Are you sick of this podcast? What's going on?
I'm sick of you. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another lovely weather, sickly time game of the year cast for our Lord and Savior year of 2018.
I saw Radiohead for the first time this year, which was crazy. I saw Childish Gambino in Chicago with Mandy. Shout out Mandy. That was the first time I went out of state for concerts. Um, is this a
Mm-hmm.
music podcast, by the way? I didn't know. Oh, game of the year, not album of the year. Okay. 2018. I like to think of 2018 as like 2013. There's there's only a few games that I think people prop up, and then there's kind of all the rest. For sure.
Probably. I haven't really paid attention because I've just had my sights on my games and that's it.
Well, it's okay because lucky for you, I have to bring the Google knowledge for the opening discussion. But Erik, what's your runner-up game of the year?
My runner-up for game of the year. What a fantastic question, Brian. My runner-up for game of the year is a game in a series that kind of did the whole sequel boot thing, where it was like it's a sequel but also kind of a reboot, because we have to do that. But it works, because you know it told a great story with great characters and had some different gameplay style than from what its original counterparts had. I'm talking about God of War 2018.
That's my runner-up too, is God of War
Wow,
2018. I know.
that works out.
I thought because you originally had Smash, I believe, yes, as a runner-up, Super
Oh
Smash.
yes, Smash is also a runner-up.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought you just took it off. So
No, no, there's two. Fucking jackass won't let me get my runner-ups out of the way.
I wasn't expecting you to have two. You've been saying for months. For months. Oh yeah, Super Smash, Super Smash, Super Smash. I didn't know God of War was in there.
Well, you know what? It was. Someone doesn't listen to me clearly.
Okay, boy.
I'm not validated.
God of War, yes. Very great game.
And Smash,
And
you
Smash.
know, the best Smash Brothers ever made. Everyone's here. Uh, I'm there. Brian's there. Um, if you really want us to be there, that's what the me's are for. Um, no, I just it's a great fighting game. It's a great party game. It's a great time all around with all your friends.
I agree with you with God of War. That is my runner-up. God of War, I was very excited. I binged every God of War game in the like that was the first series I started when COVID shut the world down. One, two, three, Ghost of Sparta. I replayed Chains of Olympus on PS3 because I had it on the PSP and I had the fucking red Kratos PSP. I sold it to get money. I sold it for like $90. The battery was like blown up, like it was like fat and like it exploded, so it wasn't good. And then God of War Ascension, which I know everyone doesn't love like that. And yeah, just basically taking a series that you play Kratos, he's blood, out for
He's
blood, and
blood.
the way and he's a blood. I don't think that well, he's red, so I guess that's I don't know. I don't think there was gangs back in the
He's
time.
not the Crips, yeah.
No, he's not. He's not a crit. But this game sort of took that grand scale and this big combat, you know, all the aerial stuff and kind of brought it down to ground level. It's a personal story, but it still feels grand. A lot of the first God of War game is reminiscent in this. I know you never played any of like those ones, but it reminded me a lot of it where it was like kind of
I
focused.
played three.
Oh, you played 3. Okay. So like the first one clearly is a lot more focused and it doesn't really you kind of go back to the same areas, whereas after that it got crazy and you did all this stuff. I thought the lore stuff was really cool, and again, there's so many great moments that reference back to the old games that I think are really good. And yeah, Christopher Judge, Sunny, watch mid 90s, our game of the year for the first time ever. Took this long, is the same
18 years.
18 long years, old enough to no not I was gonna say old enough to buy cigarettes, not anymore, but you could join the military and buy porn. um
Who
yeah.
wants to buy porn?
God, I'm too old for this. Oh, I'm gonna fall.
You didn't go through the fucking list.
I said I was gonna do it after. It's fucking Spider-Man. Fucking Spider-Man. Ow.
Oh
I'm
my
too
god.
old. I'm too fucking old for this.
You completely got thrown off by everything.
So I almost got thrown off the goddamn chair too. So I brought up in the beginning, this definitely was one of those years where there was a lot of big games that came out, but it definitely was a Red Dead 2, God of War, Spider-Man. I felt
People like Red Dead
one of the
2.
3 games. Those were kind of the. What was the game you just said?
People like Red Dead 2. There's actual
Apparently,
gameplay in that game.
well, like we'll get to another sequel 2 years from now that I think is held in that regard too, of like, oh, people like that. We know what it is. We know. We had a Forza game, Forza Horizon 4. I felt like that's when the Forza Horizon games like kind of hit that big fan base.
Saying
Like,
it wrong.
I think that game kind of clicked with it. A Shadow of the Colossus
Forza.
remake. Shadow of the Colossus remake. I feel like you are so far behind me right now because you just said Forza, and I don't know if.
I said Forza. You're saying it wrong.
Oh, apologies. Montez is gonna love that. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Detroit Become Human. Shout out Detroit. Far Cry 5 came out. A Way Out, which was the intro game of Hazelight, which was a Joseph Fares, his own independent studio under EA. Let's see. Super Mario Party, Darksiders 3. I keep forgetting Darksiders is like a thing. You know what was funny? I said a lot of big games came out this year, and now I'm looking and I'm kind of like,
Whoops.
Well, Among Us officially came out this year. You know, we all love that game. And
Kind of. Yeah. It didn't pop off it for another year, but
yeah, it took a long time. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the ending of that trilogy. Celeste, which was a huge indie game that came out this year. Eric told me to be wary because it's hard.
Yeah, because you love Cuphead so much.
Your favorite game came out this year, Sea of Thieves, and everyone's favorite game of the year came out this year. Say it with me, Fallout 76. Okay, so without further ado, Eric, technically this is your year.
My year.
I just had a stroke on camera. Jesus Christ. Technically this is your year to start it, so I'm gonna let you intro Spider-Man, and then we'll have a conversation because yeah, it's first time that it's the same game of the year. So let's go, Spider-Man.
I remember when they were talking about the discussions on why Insomniac decided to make a Spider-Man game. Marvel came up to them and they said, "Hey, you can make a game of any one of our characters. Who do you want it to be?" And they immediately said Spider-Man, because who the fuck would say anyone else, really? If you had the opportunity to do anyone. Now, the problem with, wanting to do a Spider-Man game, everyone always gets concerned about is, how is it going to, function in an open, if it's going to function in an open world. How's that web slinging going to go? What's the combat going to be like? What is you know, how old is Spider-Man at this rate? How what type of villains are we going to get? All this jazz and things like that. And I feel that they were able to get a right approach down with about all of those. They were able to figure out, what type of open world it was. You get the whole city of Manhattan. That's pretty fucking big. Excellent. It's web swinging. Top tier, all the way up here. Probably the best in the entire series. I don't know. I haven't played Spider-Man 2.
Are we gonna do the joke this whole video where every other thing we say is it makes you feel like Spider-Man? I just don't know if we're gonna hit that beat.
No. What time in Peter's life it is. This is a couple years after he became Spider-Man. 8 years. So fucking right, was 8 years or was it?
Yeah, I think
it was
either 24 or 26. I think it's the same as the first Into the Spider-Verse movie.
He first became Spider-Man when he was like 15, yeah, so he's like 23. Yeah. Yeah, so he's not like fully in his 20s, but he's had many years to figure out things. And guess what? He still doesn't have it figured out because that's Spider-Man. The Rogues Gallery. To make the main villain of the game, in reality, not the main villain, but we'll get into that later. But for the marketing, they decided to we're going to go with a very newer, obscure villain of Mr. Negative. And everyone was like, who the fuck is this?
I swear to God.
But why is he cool?
He was new. Like, I thought they made him up. I'm like, this sounds like a fucking Insomniac, like, character from, like, Ratchet and Clank. And then I looked up, he was a real character. I was like, damn it.
Mm-hmm. He was like, I think he first originated back in, like, 2012. So okay. He was pretty recent. Maybe even, like, a little bit earlier than that. But he was, like, it's 2000s era Spider-Man. And his powers are just cool, He can fucking just take the negative energy and make dudes with weird powers with their weapons and fucking he can just get into your head and kind of mind control you, but not really, because you really do kind of have free will doing it. So the main thing we love about this game is probably the plot. Again, because they decided to have that time jump of it's been a few years since he started being Spider-Man. We don't have to worry about it's an origin story. We don't have to worry about him meeting people for the first time or becoming friends with people. We don't have to worry about him like starting a rogues gallery. We don't have to worry about him having to learn to be Spider-Man. No, he already knows this. He's already doing his thing. He's just having to overcome the biggest thing of his fucking life because of everything. I mean, the first thing you do in the game is go and fucking take down the Kingpin, which is something that's not really been done before in any Marvel media because the Kingpin is too powerful. But yeah, they take down fucking Wilson Fisk, and that's the start of everyone's problems because you took down the thing holding everyone back from causing the city to go into chaos, apparently. Which is very interesting because you're like, this one fat dude who just has a little bit of money. But immediately, like, the game just kind of like, it like gets you like tutorial stuff for about like an hour or so, It's like, here, this is how you get your map. Here, this is where some collectibles are. Here's some bases you can fight. All right, let's upgrade that suit to that white spider that everyone wasn't really a fan of to begin with, but I always said, that looks cool. I never understood that hate. There was a little bit of
there was
what
hate.
Is that? There was a little bit of like, that's a weird design. I don't like that. Like when it first was revealed.
Not my Spider-Man canceled. A lot of what makes this game awesome to me is something that a company we have now brought up. We've brought up every time that one of these games came out in some capacity. I won't spoil if they were our game of the years or not, but a Rocksteady basically revolutionized superhero video games because before this Spider-Man came out, Activision had the license. This is not me shit talking Activision Spider-Man games because some of them are good. Some of them are pretty good. Like, I'm not saying like they're just garbage, but they were like
Spider-Man 2.
Well, yeah, and like the original Spider-Man 2 movie tie-in, which that game is kind of the blueprint of this game, crazy enough, 14 years later, with the web swinging, the web swinging, and, you know, kind of mixing what Spider-Man was so good at, and then seeing what worked so well in Batman in the Arkham games, and then Insomniac. So it was basically like, here's the Arkham games, strip out the stuff we want. Here is what Spider-Man games have been good at doing. Take that stuff. And then here's Insomniac. We're great. We make great, colorful, zany games, systems, gameplay systems, all that. Collide it together. And it's just this weird melding of so many great things to where, like, most of the open world stuff they have to add in there for the game is not nearly as blah as people think. Like, I know everyone hates what's her name, the criminal vlogger girl. I'm trying to think of
Screwball,
who is a real character. Like, that's not something they made up. Like, this is a real character in the comics. And I mean, the only part of this game that I can denote for being kind of like, why are these in here, is anytime you have to sneak around as Miles or MJ. But those are barely in the game. But I think the fact that they included some of the systems in it makes me go, why did you put all this work into these parts? We didn't need these. Like, really? Anywho, but that's my only negative about the game. You brought up a lot of good points. Mr. Negative again. I literally was like, is this just a new character? No. And literally, his backstory is depressing and his character arc is fantastic. I think Doc Ock and like that whole storyline is one of my probably, I think it might be better.
One of the biggest fucking, things that they didn't reveal was him being in the game, for God's sakes. And we all were literally said when he showed up, we're all like, oh shit, we're getting fucking Doc Ock in this game. But then it was like, maybe we're not, maybe, it's just a dude. And then we did get him, but it was so tragic. We were so sad.
I like this a little better than Alfred Molina. And literally, that Alfred Molina is like here, like it's at the top, and this just is above it, goes to show you, and it's obviously a different interpretation, which I like too. It's not the same through line. He basically gets, I believe, ALS. That's basically what's happening to him. Like, his body, his bones are failing him, and he needs
ice bucket challenge.
This is my favorite interpretation of Spider-Man from a world perspective. Yuri is awesome as Spider-Man. I love him. He's great. Again, like he said, who would have thought that a 40-something-year-old man could play like a 20-something-year-old this well? And he just embodies that character so well. I thought voice acting top notch. Just again, story's great. The way that the world looks, the way you play as Spider-Man is one of those things where when you first play it, it feels good. But once you start playing like an hour, 2 hours in, you just are like, it's just so easy. And it's just muscle memory. And you just, the way you feel, it makes you feel like Spider-Man. And like all of like the little gadgets you get, like we talk a lot about games on this channel where it's like, once they started realizing we can make big stories, some games don't know how to weave the gaming stuff and like the movie stuff together well. This does. Like, I think the gameplay doesn't. I mean, the only stuff that feels odd is when fucking Spider-Man the whips like a sewer cover at a guy's head, and you're like, you just fucking killed that guy. Like, how is he alive? How is that man alive?
I mean, a lot of people like were like, "Oh, when you knock someone off the building, you're like, oh, well, that guy's dead." Out, you apparently sent out a little web thing so that it catches him and puts him on a wall, and you don't notice that unless you're paying attention. And you're like, "Oh, how creative!" I'm not. I don't feel bad for fucking using my concussive blast for fucking flying 300 fucking yards away. Speaking of concussive blast, let's talk about the little bit of the gadgetry because they really wanted to specialize this version of Spider-Man with gadgets and goo stuff. You know,
Gadgets and goobers.
yeah. Well, they started out with your normal web shooters, and those naturally refilled over time. But you get a set of about, I don't know, like 8 in total of gadgets. One of them is not Maylene, unfortunately. Uh, the first one you get, which is one of my favorites, of course, is the impact web, where you just fucking fire it and it just whoop, on the wall. Great, great time. You get the little spider drones that can help you out in combat. I like the electric shocks that you get. You can send a shockwave throughout, so there's a bunch of enemies are just electrifying. You got like the web balls, so you throw it out and then it just swoops everywhere, so everyone can in the vicinity can be all gooed up. You got the suspension matrix, which I thought was really fucking weird. You literally throw it on the ground and you say "fuck gravity," flying in the air, boys. I think I'm missing a couple on the top of my head, but well, of course we talked about the concussive blast, where
Yeah, I
you
was gonna say
just
that.
fucking just flies them away. Goodbye.
Well, and then you have suit powers too, which is cool. So every
Yeah,
suit you unlock, so every suit you unlock, you get a power with the suit, but I think, are you allowed to like change it if you're not
you
wearing
don't
it?
have to. Yeah, you can wear a different suit and have a different power.
I
That
didn't
was
know if
kind of
that was
cool.
in Miles Morales. Like, I didn't know because I just played Miles Morales recently, and I didn't know if that was introduced in that. Because I'm like, I swear it was in the first Spider-Man. So okay,
We were wondering what suits would we pick, and we got a good variety of suits. I would say this during this gameplay, there's a couple times where I pull up the suit menu and switch to different suits.
doing it for the
Um,
footage, for the video.
Tune into the video that you're watching right now. Some of my favorites are probably Spider Punk. I do love that one. I love the Iron Spider suit from the MCU. Mainly, I like the power it gives with the fucking spider arms because, of course, we love the Iron Spider. And eventually, in one of the DLCs, we got the original Iron Spider suit, and it looks as good with those fucking arms. Um, I really like that Ghost Spider suit, where he's fucking Ghost Rider Spider Man. That was like just like what? We're all confused. Um, the original suits I thought were very interesting that they decided to do. They had the Velocity suit, they had the armored White Spider suit, they had, of course, the ending suit, the
Love that.
just that black and yellow. Yeah, really good. That power too is also really fun too when you use that. Um, but my favorite suit, which I realized I didn't use in the gameplay, and I really only love it because of the art style and also the power together just are perfect, is the comic style suit where it looks like he was pulling for the comics. And his ability is just quip. So he just says a joke in combat. It's so stupid. It doesn't do anything but that. But you'll just gladly do it because you just want to hear Yuri fucking just shout out a random joke. Of course, to get these suits and to get like the upgrades for your gadgets and to unlock gadgets, you have to, fight crime. We also have to do some of the random stuff on the map. Of course, those bases. So you have the bases for Kingpin's goons, you have it for Mr. Negative's gang, and then later down the line, you have it for the Raft escapees.
And for Sable
Oh, and the Sable
prisons.
goons as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, you also have collectibles. So all the backpacks, which are very interesting. It helps build the world of this Spider-Man a little bit more.
I also like modern video games now that basically put video game
I thought you were just gonna
pride
end
out of
that.
business, where they just put it on the map. That's all we need. I love modern games now where they're like, here you go. There you go.
I thought that's where you're gonna end it. Was I love modern games, and that's it. They have a couple of little mini games. They have that one where you do the frequencies. You have the one where you have to make the power connector go all the way through. You have the one where you have to get the little bars to be the same as they are on top. That one was probably the worst, mainly because I'm really bad with shapes, I guess, even though they're all the same shape. I don't know. The little bars got annoying because you're just like, okay, I got to use this one, and then I got to get the one that removes a bar and things like that. Oh, this doesn't fit. I'm having problems. Let me just start all over and cry. Uh, those also give you experience from doing those challenges in Otto's lab. Forgot about those as well. Um, they also have a skill tree. It's based around combat and traversal mainly. Um, that was one of my favorite things too. Starting it up, you start out kind of like, all right, let's get going, moving, and then you slowly just get these abilities to make web swinging just so much more easier and fun. Some of my favorite things that for getting the web swinging better. I love the if you're on the ground, if you hold in the trigger and then you hold in X, you can just do this fucking huge ass jump into the air to get this fucking start. I also love the point launch. So when you land on a surface while web swinging, if you hit X at the right time, you just fucking throw yourself in the air and you get this boost of velocity. I thought that was really fucking cool.
I like you were talking about the map stuff earlier. One of probably my second favorite Spider-Man game to these ones is Ultimate Spider-Man, like 2005. I love Ultimate Spider-Man, and my favorite part of that game was all the Easter eggs. Like I think the Baxter building was in there, the
Well,
Sanctorum,
you can race Human Torch in that game.
race Human Torch. Obviously, you play as Venom. Wolverine's in the game, which I mean we'll probably see at some point with Insomniac doing that. But anyways, and here like you do the landmarks, and a lot of them are kind of hidden. So there's like a Wakandan embassy. There's the Sanctorum Avengers Tower is the tallest building in New York, so you get a trophy going up there and jumping. I think that's how it is, or you just climb it, whichever one of those. I think that's really cool. That was always my favorite part of like the Arkham games too, where especially the final one where you drive around and you're seeing all these cool little nooks and crannies and all these secrets for comic book nerds and the character nerds that just love them. um J. Jonah Jameson, you
As a
know,
podcast.
he has a podcast and you get to hear it while you're swinging. And there's those times where you get mad because you just get to a mission at the worst time. He's midway through talking and then you get there. And you're like, damn it. I want to finish listening to J. Jonah Jameson.
I mean, luckily those are archived.
I didn't expect them to jump in here this early with Miles Morales. Like when the moment they set him up early on, because I didn't know. This was like my first real I mean, I guess technically Spider-Man Homecoming was like the first time I was really like, oh yeah, they're gonna try and do this Miles Morales thing. And then when his dad shows up for the first
I've
time,
got a nephew.
yeah, yeah, freaking Childish Gambino. Speaking of, there's a callback. Um, but there was when he shows up, I didn't think anything of it, and then when it gets to the part with his family, and you're kind of, and I'm like, oh, like I was like, oh no, 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 and I was kind of shocked how quick they got Miles into it, and I'm not against it or anything. I don't think it's like bad. I was just very like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool that they're like already jumping in with him. And it is Peter's story, and I'm only gonna say this, and yes, y'all can fucking say I'm a simp and I'm a loser for thinking this. I don't go on Twitter complaining about it every day, but yes, the original face looks better. Sorry, I don't want baby face like Spider-Man when it doesn't even fit the age of his character. Like he looks like a goober, like a straight goober. Every time I was playing Miles Morales and his face shows up, it was like a jump scare. I was like, oh God. ah.
I think looking at like the promotional stuff for Spider-Man 2, it doesn't look that bad, but for the first game, it's just so out there because we already had the face.
Yeah.
But I think for Spider-Man 2, I don't think it looks as bad because they worked around it to begin with. So they pretty much decided to show Spider-Man losing in this game, like very badly. He loses so much. And I mean, of course, that is a Spider-Man thing where, he's beaten down and he has to come back up from it no matter what. But like to the point where, he lets out a killer disease, his the whole raft escapes. Uh, Sable's after him. Uh, and of course, your lovely mayor, Norman Osborn, is doing the best he can, which also sets up for the fact that we're like, okay, so Norman Osborn's the mayor. When the fuck we get in Green Goblin exactly?
Like, I think with the original Raimi movies, I think they did a good job kind of showing why Harry Osborn is an outcast. Like, I get, like, you have to draw that line very, like, well of, yes, he is rich and he's an outcast because of that, but it's not just because, oh, he's a rich boy. There's so much more to it. And I really liked the only time I actually liked playing as Mary Jane is the part where she's snooping around the apartment, the high rise, and like a lot of exposition just gets said and it doesn't feel forced. Like she's just kind of talking about when the three of them were kids, and I really like that stuff a lot. Um, I was really into the Aunt May and Feast stuff because that was stuff that I know is a thing in the comics and it was introduced to me. So I thought that whole thing was cool. And I loved how that became kind of your home base for a lot of stuff. Like you'd always go there, all the people there know you. It just, there's such a warm feeling to this game. It's sad, it's emotional, it's epic, it's awesome, but the whole time you just feel comforted. Like it just feels so good and it feels good to play. And the kid, like everything about this just feels earnest. Like it's not like, and that's why I love it as a Spider-Man story because it never, obviously it's made by people who love Spider-Man, but it just feels like it's not even just they get Spider-Man right. Like they know what they're doing. It always feels like they're taking everything that's been done and saying, okay, cool. We have the perfect opportunity because we have all this shit and we have a video game to do it in. Like we don't have to worry about movies. Like, like with the Raimi movies, the Garfield movies, the MCU stuff, you could focus on so much. And honestly, I think most of it is still fine. Like if you want to say the screwball stuff is just, it's for the video game, for the challenges, it still works better to me than like some of those challenge things in older Spider-Man games. Because it's like, yeah, that stuff's in there. Like I get it. I understand it. But even the way the third act happens, like the escalation, it doesn't feel like, oh, this is too much. Why are we go like Sable shows up, Sinister Six. I won't get into the ending. I feel like this is the week Spider-Man 2 comes out, and I still feel like Erik talked about it with some of his favorite games. Sometimes there's those games that I'm like, I'm not going to spoil that for people who've never played it. Like, just go play it because honestly, the last half an hour of this game is one of the most tragic things. And one of the, like, I physically could not do anything when the game was over. It was so many emotions. Like Stan Lee shows up and it's like emotional because then he died. He died 3 months after this came out. And
It's very interesting because this was a year for Spider-Man because this was Infinity War, this game, and Into the Spider-Verse. So we got to see Spider-Man die. We got to see Spider-Man die. And we almost got to see Spider-Man die.
well, this one's a Spider-Man's born. The other two, a Spider-Man dies. This one, a Spider-Man's born. So it's like an Oreo. Die,
also
die.
Spider-Man born in another.
Well,
What is...
but that's his origin story. But like, I'm talking about. See, like, okay, just because Miles becomes Spider-Man and both. See, stop fucking with my fucking mess. I think Mr. Negative and Doc Ock, they do a good job because it never feels like it's like Mr. Negative, 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 negative. Oh, okay, never mind. It feels like both characters because the whole twist is Mr. Negative, you're like, oh. Mr. Negative. And then Doc Ock, you're kind of like, oh, no, bad, Octavius. So it's like, I feel like you get a good job. Like, it's not like there's a lot of comic book movies, like Dark Knight Rises does it. There's a lot of other stuff where it's like, you think it's one enemy, and then they're like, no, it's not. But this does a good job giving both of them, because I still think Mr. Negative is still the central villain. It's just, Ock is the one like he's simmering. Mr. Negative is already there. Like he's the threat. And then Doc Ock, just over time, he's like, I'm getting crazier. It's like the Tom Cruise. I'm Doc Ock. I got tentacles. Trying to think of
I liked the rest of the Sinister Syndicate 6. But like I felt like they could have been more with them. I feel like you get a little bit more time with Electro than you do with fucking Scorpion or Rhino or Vulture. Vulture really just kind of just shows up and then he's gone.
That's true. Maybe they'll do more with that. Like you get the backstory of them, and Rhino shows up.
We got plenty of Rhino and Miles, because Rhino was a big component of that game. But like Electro was like, hey, look at me, I got my new suit, I'm so cool. And then Scorpion had that cool sequence where you get poisoned and you're like, oh no, can't touch the ground, even though it's just an illusion, but okay. But then Vulture just doesn't do anything.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I like the reference in Miles that apparently Vulture was like the first real big bad guy for Peter. About that at the end of the training simulators. But you know, you don't get that information in this game, so it doesn't matter. I'm very curious to see, we've got Spider-Man 2, the release of this video, it'll be out later this week, but people
mere days.
I've been trying to avoid as much spoiler stuff as I can, but of course the internet be the internet. And I'm just hoping that I can survive until I beat the game. Then I can fucking perish.
Well, I will say that, it's nice of them to come out and be basically blunt about how they took influence from the Batman Arkham games. Because did you hear the thing where they're like, hey, what's going on with Venom? And then they said, oh, Venom's a new character.
They did say Eddie Brock's not in the game.
Really? Oh, really? Is he Arkham Knight? Is Venom Arkham Knight? Venom is Arkham Knight. What?
I think they did say that Eddie Brock's not in the game. So
maybe it's Yuri.
It could be.
That her name? Isn't that the name of the police officer?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the
because I said Yuri and I was like, no, that's Spider-Man. That's his real. But maybe it's Yuri.
Yeah, we forgot to talk about the DLC. Those that was a weird time.
Hammerhead on a robot, not a shark. Hammerhead shark, but it was
Because
good.
like
It wasn't. It was the perfect kind of DLC. Like it felt like it extended the story, but it wasn't so all over the place. Like it just felt like a new story, and I was cool with it. And
couldn't
fucking
believe the fucking Black Cat, fucking was like, oh, we have a kid.
boy, Peter, leave Mary Jane ASAP. Come on now. Come on now, boy. Oh, Black Cat. Mamma
Spider-Man
mia
Bucks.
pizzeria.
Was your game of the year Spider-Man? Let us know in the comments below. Are we the fucking odd ones out? Should it have been God of War? Should it have been Smash? Should it have been Red Dead 2?
Should have
I don't
been
know if that
76.
I don't know if it could have been Fallout 76. It's doing better now.
We wouldn't
Let
know.
us know.
We didn't play it. We played Redfall instead. Like, comment, subscribe, and check out all of our game of the years. All of them. Because we're getting close to the end of the year. And it's getting, oh my God, it's getting crazy. It's getting,
I don't know what to do.
we don't know what to do. Like, what do we do with ourselves? I don't know.
How do we do game of the year for 2024 when fucking, there are no games out at that point? We just make it up.
Again. We got to start at 1999 and then go back. We started at 2000. We got to go before.
God. And then we're going to get down to what the first video game came out. We're like, our game of the year is Pong.
And then whatever your ET came out, that's my game of the year. So, here. Okay, so I'll do an ET outro. Okay, until next time. Toodaloo! I'm extending my neck to get out of the thing.